What's going on, people? Myke C Town here, the Dead End Hip Hop Solo album review, and this is gonna be a little bit different. This is the first time I have guests.
I mean, they see it too, because the quality, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, that's what? That's fucking I can't afford a nice camera like you. So you're used to my stupid ass face, but I also have his stupid ass
and the beard.
But we have a special guest.
Right.
Mark from Spectrum Pulse.
Hi there, folks. It's Mark from Spectrum Pulse, music, movies, art and culture, weekly series called Billboard Breakdown, where I talk about the bullshit that shows up there. But this time we're going to be talking about something I really wish this would have made the radio, but it never will. The album we're going to be talking about is Milo, Who Told You to Think?
And you go ahead and kick it off, man. What did you think about the album?
Okay, I'll start off by saying that in terms of a lot of Milo's work, I was introduced to him pretty late. I came into him about 2015, like with So the Flies Don't Come. I went back and went through a lot of his back catalog as much as I could. I gotta be honest, he took a while to actually really click for me, because a lot of his reference pool is really right up my alley. I like that nerdy ass shit. But at the same time, he's bringing it with a very literate composite that goes along with it. And the thing that bothered me is that I could hear this and I'm like, for a while I felt like I was just hearing someone who was doing open mic ego light.
Sure.
And I think that really changed significantly on So the Flies Don't Come. And I'm not crazy about that album, honestly. I really wanted to like it a lot more than I did. I think it's got a mood to it that I appreciate, but it's not an album I can put on all the time. This album, Who Told You to Think? Maybe it was because he feels more direct. Maybe it's because he stepped up in terms of a lot of his flows. He showed a little bit more diversity there. The production still has some of that jazzy angle, but it brought back some of the abrasiveness that I wish he had on the last album. I thought this was one of his stronger projects. In terms of the writing on this record, in terms of some of the metaphors and the layers that he brought in, and with still having a lot of the same nerdy reference pool, I found that so compelling. You have the hilarious thing where you have that juxtaposed with references to Godspeed Black Emperor, which I thought was pretty sweet, although you have to wonder whether or not he was referencing the Japanese movie versus the actual band. It was an interesting blend there. But then again, you're pairing it with Harry Potter references, like, and then you got the Pokemon Go thing on Rapper with Bus Driver. Honestly, I think that could have been cut. I wasn't hugely a fan of how that was integrated. But then you've got lines where you're balancing it out, like, Diamond said to Cole, why so yielding? Which I just thought, there are layers to a line like that, where you're talking both in relationship to race, in terms of how that's being brought up, but also in terms of the ideas that run through this record. And I think when you circle back to the idea, it's the who told you to think. Not who told you what to think, or who told you how to think. It's the idea of having that meditative moment, of actually having the time and ability just to be able to sit back and think, and having that break point. The one line, like he says, he flourishes in the lag time. He flourishes in the moments where, in between spaces. And that's my thing, it's filling in those spaces. Again, I think there are points that get a little too abstract. Like he had right after, he had that sort of little interlude after Take Advantage of the Naysayers, where he piled on the vocal layering. I know what he was doing with it, I just wasn't really a fan of it. He still has some weird production idiosyncrasies that don't quite click for me, but again, that's his lane, so I accept what he's doing there. What do you think?
I love this album. Same thing kind of with you. My introduction to Milo was a little shaky. I wasn't a big fan of his older albums. I did a review of a Hellfire Club EP. And I said in the review, I was like, oh, I'm not a big fan of Milo, but I feel like he did some pretty dope shit on this EP. And a gang of people in the comments like, what the fuck? You're sleeping on Milo, you're hating on Milo. And I was like, whoa, I didn't say Milo was whack. I said he never clicked for me. I put it on Twitter. I was like, yeah, I did this fucking review and now everybody is saying that I'm sleeping on Milo. Milo responded. It's like, yeah, you are sleeping on him. But he was playing. I didn't know. I didn't know. He's very sarcastic, but I didn't know that. He's like, no, I'm playing, but my next album, check it out. And it ended up being his last project, which I really enjoyed. So then when this came out, I was like, I really want to hear this because I like what he does, and it just took a minute to get comfortable with his style. It's not a very easy to digest style. But this one, I knew from the second it started off with that James Baldwin sample, where he's talking about, I'd like to suggest that poets are the ones who know the truth about, who really know the truth about us. I was like, oh, this is about to be good. The thing about it is, there was a little bit more diversity with this one than his normal projects. Usually they're fairly monotone as far as a production goes. I feel like he had some ups and downs with this one, which I think is really needed with his projects. And it's interesting to see what he does as far as rapping with those different styles of production.
Getting on this Black Bukowski shit.
Oh my, yeah, I'm back.
That was your shit.
Yeah, I know that.
Fucking notebook. I write with a what is it? I write with a toolkit.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that's a dope ass line. But that was one of my favorite songs on this. Definitely Landscaping with the Lucid. And then it was like the first 4 tracks were just damn near perfect because it was the way that Call and Form rolled into Magician. I was like, oh my god, those beats were just unfucking real. And the thing about it is, I think he produced. I know he produced some of those tracks. I'm not sure which ones. I need beat for that kind of shit. But the interesting thing, it was after that, because the only song that I didn't care for on this whole project was "The Young Man Has a Point."
Okay.
And that was because I don't know who Young Man is, and I don't want to shit on him, but I wasn't really a fan of his verse. Everything else, I was like, this dude is really, really killing it. But then he had some interesting lines, like where he says, "A microphone on my shoulder like a bazooka that shoots a tooth." I was like, okay, so is there some reference I don't get, or was that an Aesop Rock kind of shout out, bazooka tooth?
Yeah.
So I couldn't really figure that one out, but I'm trying to figure out, Call and Form. So that was the one where he says, this is the last call for the real MCs. This is the last call for the real MCs. Your voice is needed. Is that a Del the Funky Homo Sapien reference? Because he has a song where he says, this is a dedication to you whack MCs. This is a dedication to you whack MCs, and y'all are history. But the way it's rhymed is almost exactly like the way Milo did it. And I was like, was that some kind of homage? I'm like, if that's what he's doing, that's so fucking dope to use such an obscure reference from such an obscure rapper who just happens to be one of my top 5. That's the only reason I picked it up. But then when you start doing that, you start listening to all of the other lines, because that's when you're like, wait a minute, there's some deeper shit here.
Yep.
Take advantage of the naysayers.
Yeah.
Okay, did y'all catch the line where he says, with his peaks and valleys and peeling wallpapers and bald haters? That's what he said.
Just that.
Who do you think he's talking about? Think about it.
Wait. Say that again.
With his peaks and valleys, peeling wallpaper and bald
Klan
haters.
and neo-Nazi and not. Well, he said peak. Okay, wait a minute.
Think about it.
Wait a minute. All right.
He's talking about Fantano.
That's what I was.
Wait.
He's talking about Fantano.
But the peaks and valleys is the one that I got the bald head. I was like,
The bald haters, he's talking about Fantano.
I thought Fantano liked them though.
Fantano wasn't very favorable about one of his albums. I forget the Toothpaste.
Toothpaste.
He wasn't very favorable about that album. And I think Milo took a little bit of offense to that. I watched Fantano's review, and I don't think he was an asshole about anything, but he was very critical about that album. So I think it bothered Milo, and I'm like, damn, this motherfucker actually made it onto a Milo album for disliking shit.
Isn't this the same song where he said, "I may not be the rapper for you"?
Yes. My autobiography name, something like that, is "I'm not the rapper for you."
Holy shit!
I think that's what it said.
Because that was the line that stood out to me on that song. Oh,
So
man.
when you couple that with the bald haters, and I haven't asked him, but I really want to know what Fantano thinks about that. But yeah, I mean, there were just lines where I was just like, damn, he says certain things where I'm like, I wonder if that's what he meant, or I wonder if this is what he meant. And that's what I love now. I would just listen to what he says, and I'm like, okay, he's just talking about nothing, so I don't really care, which is my ignorance. But once it clicked and I went backwards, I was like, damn, this dude is seriously a lyricist. Like, you're calling him Open Myke Eagle Light.
I think they are in slightly different lanes now. I think.
They are,
Yeah.
but but the way they use word references is
so
very
fucked,
similar.
yeah.
So once I fell in love with Open Myke Eagle's music and I went back to Milo, I'm like, I was sleeping like a motherfucker.
And they're really, really tight. Like,
Yeah, they're on the same
Milo
crew.
is same crew,
Yeah.
but he's definitely a big fan of Open Mike Eagle, so that kind of makes sense.
Right. What did you think?
So actually, I'm really glad that I am on this review, because when I listened to it, I was going home from work and I was playing in the car. It was really late. It was like 9 something, and the windows were down. I was like, and it was just open. I was like, man, this shit sounds so fucking good. Just the music, just the production. I was like, man, this shit sounds so fucking good. And the more I listened to it, the more and more the production started to pull at me. Milo's always been like real abstract and just kind of out there with the lyrics, and you kind of like, I don't know what the fuck he's saying or what he's even talking about. But this one, it definitely sounds like from Till the Flies Come Home to now that he's growing and evolving as an artist. He's always had that bit of self-awareness, which is why the line about, you know, I may not be the rapper for you, when I heard that, it was like he understood his place in hip hop, and he's not trying to do anything like that. So you take that, put it with, you know, this is the call to the real MCs, or why are your rappers talking about their branding and stuff again?
That was dope.
You know, so I'm thinking about that, and also that too is like he's doing what he wants to do, he's doing what he loves, and he's able to do it without having to work, and he's appreciative of that. And that he doesn't have to sell out and do stuff like that, because the type of music and the type of things that he talks about, he's very into philosophy and stuff like that. It's not for everybody.
Right.
So yeah, but the last one, Till the Flies Come On, was definitely it was in my top 10, I want to say, that year.
It was high in the top 10 if I remember correctly.
Yeah, because I mean, he was talking about things that were, that I like, you know, that was sitting around just, you know, being very conscious and socially aware of the things that was going on. With this one, it was a little bit different, but the production sounded a little bit more polished from what he's done before.
Jazzy, it had like some live instrumentation sound.
Some of the guitar that came in.
The guitar, towards the end of one song.
Embroidered.
What song was it?
Which one?
It was like at the end of one of the songs. Yes.
Love that song.
When the guitar comes in at the end, I'm just like, damn, this is fucking beautiful.
Man, like
beautiful.
Cough plus Form, every time that comes on, I just fucking lose it.
Yes.
I just get mad, because I'm like, oh my God, what the fuck is going on with this beat? And then of course, Pablum, Celeste King has a dope beat. There's a moment, there's a bass line that comes in Magician after it starts off with, and that drops. I'm like, oh my God, that's fucking nuts. Page and Mr. Bill Nunn had a dope beat to it. Like, IDK had a little Tribus type feel for me. Another one that stood out to me was Yet Another. And this is kind of like my nerdy tech stuff, but when, in the past, when people would make software,
right,
sometimes they would run out of creative names to come up with them. So they'll just do Yet Another music player, YAMP, Yet Another comic book reader, which is Yak Reader. So when he did Yet Another, I thought about that. I'm like, well, I don't know if he meant that, but just that phrasing, you know, took me back to that, because, you know, it was just like, okay, I ain't got anything clever to say, so here's Yet Another rap song, you know. So the more I listened to it, the more I played, I was like, yeah, I definitely want to be on this review, because, you know, I wanted to hear what you guys thought about the album, because I was like, man, I am loving the hell out of this fucking album. And am I alone on this?
No. He freaked it. He definitely stepped up in all lanes. He stepped up his flow. He stepped up, I don't want to say stepped up, I think he switched up a little bit as far as his flow goes. The beat part, that's what really got me. I was like, wow, he's definitely rapping over some different type of production than he's done before, and doing it extremely well. And it was just, like I said, there's just those hidden references, because a lot of his stuff definitely goes over my head.
The race thing is an interesting turn from him, because I think in his previous work, he didn't really, if he did, I didn't pick it up. He didn't really talk about it as heavy as he has been on his last couple of projects.
There was a lot of layers of conscious elements on there. Like going back to Yet Another, there's one thing that I always found kind of amazing about that song, is that it's basically all about songs that are trying to distract people. That entire song to me stood out as distraction.
Oh, wow. So it could be Yet Another rap song.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and then you had the second verse from Lord Freddy, I think his name is, and he has the line at the end, killed over Skittles, no wonder they take magic beans.
I saw that, I caught that.
Yeah, which is implying that additional level of distraction. The thing that really stood out to me about this particular project, and it felt so much more thematically cohesive. It came together a lot better than So the Flies Don't Come, at least for me. In terms of having that flexibility to sit back and think, it's got that meditative element, but he has that flexibility because he's in a specific lane, whereas so many artists will not take that time to think. One thing that jumped out to me specifically take advantage of the naysayers. The song it takes the hook that was pulling from Method Man, and it's pulling back to my dad's asking these questions: is it real, son?
Yeah,
is it really real? Is it something you can feel? Is it the raw deal? And then you immediately follow it with the song, I don't know.
Yep.
And it's a question that he's confronting the questions, and he's like, I don't have all these answers, but I at least have the flexibility to think.
And he's
about
telling
these
you that
answers.
he tells you that flat out, that I don't have the
Yeah.
answers. I don't know, but I want you to at least spend some time thinking about these things or anything.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really dope, especially with that line you're talking about, one of y'all talking about earlier with the whole, why is your favorite rapper talking about their branding?
Yep.
I think it's really dope that you have somebody that's calling that kind of shit out. Like that's all they're talking about, but they're not talking about anything that's actually important. And again, when he started off with the James Baldwin line, I knew that that's what this album was going to be themed after. And what's so interesting is when you listen to this, it sounds like a beat poet. Like when I think of this album, I can picture a motherfucker on stage with a live band behind him in a smoky club.
Get like a beat Nolan type.
Yeah, like a beret, just kind of like, just when you see him live, that's how he is. He's not doing all these thematics. It's him on stage reciting poetry, and that's how it feels. This whole album feels like a jazzy poetry album, and it's fucking great, man.
And then the one line that jumps out at me, one more, I think the reason why he asked to do this is like, vocab in a bar fight with Gary Gygax, when Gary Gygax is the guy who invented Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, I didn't catch that one.
And the fun thing with that is that you look back across a lot of the album, there's so much that ties into magic. He calls himself a sorcerer, he calls himself a magician, an illusionist. He talks about raising the dead. And he was talking about a lot of the illusion. I'm thinking, is the illusion the art that he's creating in order to distract himself? Because Gary Gygax was, if you know it in terms of Dungeons and Dragons, he was the kind of guy, he made adventures and they were fucking hard as hell. But then you follow with the line, I got this life-threatening heart disease that won't let me forget anything. So in terms of the follow-up there, he's thinking like, he's now facing the meat grinder, he's now facing that, but he can't forget it, so he needs some way to express that however he can.
To get it out.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing about him that I find interesting, listening to his music, but again, like, I can't follow everything that he's saying. But I still found him interesting.
Yeah.
Because of what he was doing, how he was doing it, and his approach to it.
Yeah.
Even if I didn't always get it. And, that's enough to keep me intrigued.
Same.
So just to see him kind of develop over time from that to this is quite remarkable.
I'm thinking this is a solid to strong 8 out of 10. I'm a huge fan of this. It's probably gonna be one of my rap albums of the year. Like in terms of the complexity, I can only see this growing on me. I was wandering around an art gallery yesterday, I put this on repeat. And it is such phenomenal music to do that sort of thing. I can see this lingering in my mind for a while.
Milo, if you're watching, you've elevated to a point now where I'm interested and intrigued about what you're gonna do next. And I love what you did with this album in terms of the production, the ability to progress from what you were doing last time to this was really dope. Just talking about race and stuff like that, which is something of interest to me. But to put something out here in this album that's different from that and is still freaking dope and is able to capture my attention, I think says something about what you're doing as an artist. So keep up the good work, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you do next, man.
Milo, thank you for telling me that I was sleeping on your music, because I was factually sleeping on your music. I really, really, really enjoyed this. Overall, I'm talking about beats, flows, everything. I thought that this was an incredibly dope project. And I forget how many songs are on it, but out of all of the songs, to not like just one, it's a very rare occurrence in today's hip hop landscape for a hater like me. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm super excited to see what you do next. And that's it, as usual. Thank you for living, thank you for loving, thank you for being you. Please don't die. I'll see you guys next time. All right? Peace, bitches.